All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari 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 Gaur. So we are reading from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 30th chapter. Today is text 5, and we'll be reading the commentaries by Srila Prabhupada's disciples and the commentaries by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and maybe others. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sunor Gato Ritva Prema Asavalokanai Drishto Vakachidashvata Lakshanya Grodano Manaha Annasunur Gato Ritva Prema Hasavalokanai Drishto Vakachidashvata Plakshanya Grodano Manaha Nandasunur Gato Ritva Prema Hasavalokanai Drishto Vakachidashvata Lakshanya Grodano Manaha Annasunur Gato Ritva Prema Hasavalokanai. Okay. Ladies, okay. Drishtaha has been seen Vaha by you. Kachit, whether. Ashvata, O Ashvata, holy fig tree. It's actually a banyan tree. That Ashvata is a banyan tree. Anyway. Plaksha, oh Plaksha, waved leaf fig tree, which you don't have here in Fiji. Nyagroda, oh Nyagroda, banyan tree. Naha, our. Manaha, minds. Nanda, of Maharaja Nanda. Sunuhu, the son. Gataha, has gone away. Ritva, after stealing. Prema, loving. Hasa, with his smiles. Avalokanahe, and glances. So translation, the gopis said, O Ashvatha tree, O Plaksha, O Nyagroda, have you seen Krishna? That son of Nanda Maharaj has gone away after stealing our minds with his loving smiles and glances. So, there's no purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, so I'm going to read Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's purport. The gopis pose 9 questions, because the Plakshu or Pilu and other trees mentioned in this verse are very tall. From far off, they would be able to see Krishna. Because of this possibility, the gopis asked these trees. The Plaksha tree is the Pilu. I can tell a story about the Pilu tree, if anyone's interested. The Pilu tree actually there's actually a story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there's a Braj story about the Pilu tree. The Pilu tree has these fruits on them that are very special. And what happens is when you suck on them, they're very tasty, but if you somehow touch the seed, it just like drives you crazy, like a bitter taste. Now this is actually a story told in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When the devotees came back from Braj and they brought the Pilu fruits, and they gave them to the devotees in Jagannath Puri. The devotees in Jagannath Puri, they ate these Pilu fruits, and they didn't know how to eat them, and they just like, it was burning their throats. It was like eating red peppers. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would laugh at that. Another story about a Pilu tree. There's a famous Pilu tree at this place called the Manasa Pavana Ghat. Anyone who's been to India with me will know what I'm talking about. Remember? You don't remember. So So Manasa Pavana Ghat is a bathing place, Ghat means bathing place, on the banks of the Shaima Kund. You have Radha Kund and Shaima Kund. Everybody knows about that? No. Anyway, maybe I should go preach to the Methodists or something. So Radha Kund and Shaima Kund, Shaima Kund was made by Krishna, and the Radha Kund was made by Srimati Radharani, her associates. So, the story is that there was a Brahmin from Kashi, and Kashi generally has impersonalists there. And this Brahmin, he wanted to see Krishna's pastimes, he was a devotee. And so he prayed, this is over 5,000 years ago, he prayed and he took birth as a Pilu tree. And as that Pilu tree on the banks of the Shaima Kund, in this place called the Manasa Pavana, Pavana means compassion, like the world, the world actually, Manasa Pavana. Anyway, he's a very compassionate God. So, on the banks, and he took birth as this tree, this Pilu tree. Remember the tree now? Yeah, thank you. Senior moments for you. So he took birth as this Pilu tree, and the gopis, when they would bathe in the Shaima Kund, they would actually hang their clothes on the Pilu tree. Very interesting. And so this Pilu tree, he was able to see Radha and Krishna's pastimes. It's very interesting, the devotees are very interested in bathing in Radha Kund, which is wonderful. You take water on your head. Don't put your feet in Radha Kund, because your feet should not touch Radharani. And actually many Vaishnavas who live in Radhakund, they take a load and they pour the water on their heads rather than going in Radhakund. So we should be very careful about these things. So anyway, he perceived Radha and Krishna's passing. Anyway, getting back a little bit. The reason I was telling you this is the gopis bathed more in Shaimakund than they did in Radhakund. Because Shaimakund is Krishna's kund, and Krishna bathed in Radhakund. So you'll find a lot of information about Radhakund in the Upadeshamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami if you're interested. And it says that, devotees live on the banks of Radhakund, and that's the highest perfection. Well, if you serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna with Radharani, then you're actually living on the banks of Radhakund always. You don't have to go to Radhakund and live there because you're not qualified. And even if you were qualified, you'd want to preach. It's like a catch-22. You understand? If you're not qualified, don't stay there. And if you are qualified, don't stay there. Because you'll be preaching. If you're qualified, you should go out and save people. I mean, it's actually insane if you know how to save people. It's like watching someone get attacked on the street and you're trained in martial arts. Isn't it? Or pulling your cell phone out and taking pictures of someone getting attacked on the streets. You shouldn't just think, I'm not supposed to use my martial arts. No, you're supposed to save a person. So anyway, if you are qualified, don't live there. If you're not qualified, don't live there. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that if you live in Radhakund and you're not qualified, it becomes Naraka Kund for you. In other words, you go to hell. It's a serious thing. So anyway, Prabhupada did not want any of his disciples living there, unless they could preach. We have a preaching center there, which is all. So anyway, getting back to the point, this Pilu tree observed all of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. Not all of them, but many of the pastimes. And later on, after some time, 100, 200 years, there was a great Vaishnava who appeared in this world, and his name was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he made his Bhajan Kutir right by the Pilu tree. Him and Raghunath Das Goswami. Because Raghunath Das Goswami was far before Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But anyway, their Bhajan Kutirs are right next to each other, as well as the Bhajan Kutir of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Very interesting. And also, for you ladies, Ganga Mata Goswami. Her Bhajan Kutir is right there too. So you got those 3 Bhajan Kutirs, these great Vaishnavas. And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur would regularly converse with the Pilu tree. Interesting, isn't it? He would talk with the tree and hear about Radha and Krishna's pastimes. Amazing. And he's known as the Rasacharya, because he would write all these wonderful stories about Radha and Krishna, like Krishna jumping into a box that was supposed to be filled with jewels. Some of you may know this story. And having Radharani's so-called husband, Abhimanyu, bring this box to Radharani, not knowing that Krishna is in the box, thinking there are jewels in the box, and telling Radharani, enjoy yourself and decorate yourself with whatever is in the box. And of course, that's the original Krishna in the box. Out pops Krishna. So anyway, Radharani obeyed the order of her so-called husband and decorated herself with Krishna. So anyway, that's a story about it. Sorry about that. Vyagroda is the banyan tree. Fearing the trees would ask, why are you asking? The gopis said, though he is the son of the pious Nanda, he has stolen the hearts of us women and fled away. So actually Krishna, this is a very interesting statement, stolen the hearts. I mean, the heart is the seat of emotion. You never find on Valentine's Day, you say, someone will send a picture of a brain or any other part of the body, it's just, it's not very romantic. So they were hard with an arrow through it. And this Krishna is also called the transcendental Cupid. Just like Cupid, he has arrows. He's called Ananga. Ananga means he has no external manifest body because Lord Shiva actually wiped him out when he tried to make Lord Shiva lusty. Wasn't a good idea. So he's called Ananga. And also, actually the cousin of Krishna is called Ananga Manjari because she helps arrange for Krishna's pastimes with Radharani. So she's like Cupid Manjari. Very, very beautiful name. And Janavamata is actually the same as Ananga Manjari. Janavamata, the wife of Lord Nityananda. So anyway. So in this material world, you have Cupid firing his arrows of form, taste, smell. Boom! And when he hits you, you're finished. Except if you happen to be Narayan Rishi's, that story there, where Cupid and Indra and Gandharvas, and they all came and they were firing arrows at Narayan Rishi, and they just yawned. This is all you got? And then Narayan Rishi produced their own Apsara, Urvasi, and said, you can take one back with you, if you like. So anyway, so the same principle applies in the spiritual realm. That Krishna has his form, his taste, his smell, his sound vibration from the flute, and from his voice, and all these other touch, all these different things. Like, they actually just drive the gopis crazy, isn't it? Just like in this world, the form, taste, smell, whatever, drives people crazy. Of course, in this world, people have to put perfume on, or aftershave lotion, or something like that, and decorate their faces, and cudgel. What else? Anyway, I don't know what else to attract people. But in the spiritual realm, Krishna is naturally attractive. In fact, it's described that he actually makes his ornaments more beautiful. Rupa Goswami describes this. So he's so beautiful, and the ornaments, it's not that he needs the ornaments to be beautiful or attractive or handsome. He makes the ornaments much more attractive. So anyways, but in this material world, the ornaments make the man or the woman tolerable. Covering up the Tridaduke, biomucus. Isn't it? Because you got to comb your hair, And he was described by Krishna when he was young. He had his hair was all over the place, but it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And Radharani sometimes has Krishna as a hairdresser. There's a temple, the Vana Bihari temple in Govardhan, right near Kushima Sarovar. You should all go to India with me sometime. You're all invited. You've been to India? No. You should come with me sometime. We'll get you to surrender. Kushima Sarovar, there's this Vana Bihari temple, and Krishna is actually decorating Radharani's hair. But the interesting thing is, different than every other lady, Radharani's looking in the mirror, but she's not looking at herself. Most ladies, they go to the hairdresser. You have hairdressers here? And they go under these hair dryers. I remember I went with my mother. It looked like, it was ugly. Anyway, but then they come out and they look half decent. And most ladies, when they go to the hairdresser, they're actually looking at themselves, like this. But Radharani is looking at Krishna. She's not really that concerned with herself. She's looking behind her in the mirror at Krishna. So anyway, so Krishna steals the hearts like that. Says he has stolen the hearts of us women and fled away. His servants in the form of his bold glances, this is his servants, with a special bewildering potion of prema, which intoxicates all people. This is so poetic. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is very poetic. Has entered through the door of our eyes into the city of our hearts, and stealing the jewel of our minds, and he has fled. This is so beautiful. So his bold glances, that described here, actually imbued with prema, and intoxicated just by seeing Krishna's bold glances. You get intoxicated, described here. And goes through the eyes into the heart. So, and then he runs away. So what does that mean for us, okay? Actually, there's an interesting verse by Lord Kapila. It states, what is it? Satam prasangam amamirya sambaro, avanti ritkarna rasayana katam, tajoshanadashu apavarga vartani, shradavati aravakti anukramashati. That Krishna, for us, of course we look at the deities, it has a simile, but really for us, the way that Krishna enters into our consciousness, enters into our heart is through our ears. Bhavanti rit karna rasayana kata. Rit means heart, and karna means ear. So Krishna's Krishna kata enters from our ears, goes into our heart, and rasayana kata. Kata is like tasty and medicinal stuff. Tajoshana Rashu Apavarga Vartmani. In this way, we get liberated, which is actually not that significant. But then up Vartmani, Shraddha Gatira Raku, and then you get some faith, taste, and ultimately bhakti. And also in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, 4th verse, 1st chapter. Nivrittitar Sharupa Gimana, Volshana Shrocha Mano Vidavat, Ka Uttama Shloka Gunanavada, Vina, Kuman Vidajeta, Vina Pashubnat. Very famous verse. This is actually like the nutshell verse of the 10th canto, 10.1.4. And it states that Nivrittitar Upadiyamana, that in this material world, I'm paraphrasing, rather than just verbatim. In this material world, we're suffering from these miseries. But if we hear about Krishna, then it'll relieve all these material miseries. It'll make our mind happy. We'll actually enjoy, like Machita, Mantata, Prana. Same thing. And everyone will be attracted to the transcendental pastimes of Krishna that go from the ear to the heart, except for those who are killers of the soul or killers of the animal. Puman, those people, Puman, Vidajeta, Vinal Pashubnat, those who are killers of, basically, Pashu can mean animals or it can mean killer of the soul. So people who are eating meat, they can't really be attracted to the Krishna Kata. And of course there is that example I told you the other day, where if one is a servant of a devotee, like a tailor who was a servant of Srivas Thakur got Lord Chaitanya's mercy, even though he was a medium. That's a special case. But generally, people have to be situated in the mode of goodness. That's what it really means. Because if you're eating meat, you're in the mode of ignorance. So sometimes when in the early days of the movement, we would say people eating meat, we call them meatheads. They'll never understand Krishna. So it's really important to give up eating meat. Anyway. So anyway, so this is the way our mind gets stolen by Krishna. Continuing the purport. Standing silently for a short time in expectation of an answer, the gopis thought, what use do we have of these trees? These unconscious entities have not replied to our question. What need do we have for these trees with impure hearts, with meager fruit, ignorance of how to help others, and even without flowers? Thinking in this way, the gopis left the trees and went elsewhere. So according to the Ras theology, the gopis are experiencing anger towards the trees now. You understand? So they're enjoying. It's really amazing. They're enjoying all these different indirect rasas as well as the direct ras. You can analyze this according to the Ras theology. Of course, the direct ras is their conjugal relationship with Krishna. But then there's anger, there's anxiety, there's fear, there's not exactly chivalry. Anyway, so you find all these indirect rasas flavoring the direct ras. Maybe I should read Jiva Goswami's commentary. I mean, it's nice to just really get into each verse like this according to the acharyas. And we have the prerogative to do that. At least I have the prerogative as Prabhupada disciple. Because my godbrothers are the ones who commented, so I also have the right to do that too. So Jiva Goswami says, they address each of the trees individually out of respect, seeing them as dear to Krishna. Why do you ask about him? He stole our minds like gems and then left. We have come here having lost our direction. We ask about the thief from you, decent trees. So Krishna's a thief. Because we had faith in the son of Nanda, we deposited our treasure with him. Nanda, in this particular context, Jiva Goswami describes Nanda's meaning giving bliss, is the cause of bliss for all the people of Braj. It's interesting, isn't it? Nanda Maharaj, he's the one who gives bliss. That's why he's called Nanda Maharaj. Wow. Anyway, I enjoy this. I don't know about all of you, but Nanda Maharaj is the cause of all bliss for the people of Braj. But his son only gives us suffering. You know, he gives us bliss, but his son gives us suffering. They do not mention his name directly out of hatred. So, you know, there's the anger there. There's that rush of anger. You know, Hare Krishna. And you see this sometimes when Krishna makes Radharani angry. She says, I don't want to see him again. And then you have Lalita in particular, just really like manifesting this transcendental hatred towards Krishna because she loves Radharani so much. See, some of the gopis, just to explain this, are focused primarily on Radharani, her pleasure. And some of the gopis are like Radharani and Krishna. So Lita is like Radharani. And if Krishna gives her trouble, I hate the guy, you know. Basically. Whereas Vishaka is a little bit different. Vishaka is more, well Lita is hot-headed, spiritually. So Vishaka is more cool-headed. She does mediation and conflict resolution. It's like in ISKCON we have alternative, it's called ADR, alternative dispute resolution. So Vishaka's in charge of that department. And Lita's in charge of the Justice Department. So anyway, so you see there, they do not mention Krishna's name directly out of hatred. Also, adharma krita stanam duchakas yapa tad bhavet. The person who points out the sinner attains the same place as the sinner. So Krishna's a sinner. Actually, that's from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:17-22. That's of course the story of Dharma the bull. You don't know that story? The Dharma the bull is being attacked by the personality of Kali. Parikshit Maharaj coming upon the scene asks him who has done this, and Dharma the bull doesn't even point out the sinner. And he actually says that those who blame a particular person, they're just as culpable as the sinner. So a very interesting part of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 17th chapter of the first canto. And so the gopis are thinking the same way. We're not going to mention him, he's a sinner. They're so angry. Krishna's a sinner, he came to us, promised us anything, played his flute, we dropped our babies because of him, because previously, when Krishna played his flute, the ladies were cooking on the stoves and the milk was boiling over and they were holding their little babies, rockabye baby, and then poof. They didn't throw the babies down, but they just put the little baby crying and just ran away. And so they're saying, hey, Krishna, you're very sinful. Kachit indicates a question. Have you seen him? Kachit is always a question. He was playing in this direction. We will search for him with some comfort from you, referring to the tree. So Jiva Goswami is actually presenting a little bit different angle of vision here. I mean, it's a similar angle of vision, but it's a slightly different flavored. And then, well, let's finish up with Sanatana Goswami. Has Krishna been seen by you? This is Sanatana Goswami. Or has your Krishna ever been seen? By stating a relationship with Krishna, they indicate that trees may have seen him. They could speak to the gopis out of affection for him. Or they speak this way out of intense prema, thinking that others have their bhava. In other words, the gopis are looking at the trees and think, because they're atmavat manyate jagat. When you're feeling a particular bhava, you think others have that same emotion. You project that on others. But obviously the trees don't. They have a different bhava in relation to Krishna. They're called to each tree individually, respecting them as devotees. The Ashvata is famous as a vibhuti of the Lord. Of course, that's from the Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita, sorry. Bhagavad Gita, the Vibhuti Yoga chapter. Or opulence, the absolute. Those of you who read English. A devotee, the Lord says to Arjuna, know that I am in the banyan tree, Yagrodha. The plaksha tree is their companion. These are the places of Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. The gopis, of course, would not have this in mind when asking questions, since they were confused by separation. But I will elucidate things according to my promise to follow what Sridhar Swami explains in the 5 chapters, rather than according to the gopis' bhava. So he's referring to Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on the Bhagavatam. The questions are to the trees they see in front of them. They will be explained in order of the text. Nanda Sutta indicates their master with the suggestion that he is a Rasika. Why do you ask about him? He has stolen our minds, which are like gems, and departed. We have come here not knowing where he is. We ask you, righteous trees, about the thief. Kachit indicates a question. Please tell us. They cannot complete that statement because of the disturbed state. We are searching for him with effort at this place. We infer that you have seen him. He is nearby. Being consoled, we block the life heirs from leaving and preserve our lives. In other words, thinking that there's some chance of meeting with Krishna, they stay alive because they're ready to die. In the Lalita Madhava by Srila Rupa Goswami, you actually have a manifestation of the gopis' mood in relationship to separation from Krishna. You actually have like Radharani jumping into the Jamuna River after Krishna leaves Vrindavan. I mean, it's a wonderful story. And then Radharani being taken to the sun god, along with the gem that she was given from killing the Shankachuda demon, which becomes the Shaimantaka jewel later on, and she is given to Satyajit as Satyajit's daughter. Anyway, not going to get into the whole story there, but you see, it actually, in the Lalita Madhava, the gopis like intense mood of not wanting to live without Krishna and giving up their bodies when Krishna is not there is manifested, is illustrated by Srila Rupa Goswami. And then they say the sentence is no. This is it's not time again. The sentence is incomplete because they cannot answer properly because they are in great pain. Unmata ka vat. Like unmata ka vat. So anyway, so we can take some questions here. If anyone has any questions, I think this is like a really Rasika class. So anyway.
There was a question.
Yeah.
I heard in one class on the Lalita's appearance said that Lalita has 8 principal manjaris.
Yes.
And the head of them is Rupa Manjari.
Yes.
That's Rupa Goswami.
That's Rupa Goswami.
And we're known as Rupa Nugas.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if because we're coming in that line, is there a specific mood of Rupa Nugas different from those that are coming in the line?
No. Actually, many of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya who are Rupanugas are coward boys. Many of the devotees are followers in the parental relationship. But we're Rupanugas in the sense, I mean, of course, everyone is serving Srila Rupa Goswami, and everyone is serving everyone in Braj is actually, in one sense or the other, serving the conjugal relationship between Radha and Krishna. But Rupanugas in the sense of that he has given us the practice of, sadhana, Raganuga practice, Bhava practice, and Prema practice, and his elaboration in the Nectar of Devotion, which we know as the Bhakti Rasa Nitya Sindhu, and also later on, for those of you in 10,000 lifetimes from now can read the Ujjvala and the Ramani. That's his advanced study. So that's in that sense we're Rupanugas, but it doesn't indicate our particular ras. I mean, with Krishna or the manifestations of our particular ras. I mean, you could be a follower of Champaka Lata, one of the other 8 gopis. You could be a follower of Nandamar. You could be a follower of one of these trees in Vrindavan. The whole idea is, as one progresses in devotional service, according to Rupa Goswami, then after you are pretty much free from anarthas. I mean, not absolutely free. This is an interesting discussion. You can be free from anarthas, but not absolutely free. That means you have no anarthas, but if you're not careful, they come back. And that was the state of Bharat Maharaj. He was free from anarthas, but he was in Baba, but he wasn't careful. And he got the anartha thinking himself the protector of the deer. Of course, it was right for him to protect the deer. That wasn't a wrong thing. If a little baby deer is there, I'd pick him up and protect him. But I wouldn't start kissing him. Yeah, I wouldn't interrupt my sadhana. Well, even if I wasn't doing sadhana, I wouldn't kiss him. I'd take care of him as a service to Krishna, because it's actually quite sinful if someone takes shelter of you. Like the story of Yudhisthira Maharaj at the end of the Mahabharata, when this dog had taken shelter of Yudhisthira Maharaj. Everyone knows the story. And Indra came down and said, "It's time to go to heaven. Let's go." And Yudhisthira said, "Can the dog come too?" And Indra said, "No, we don't allow dogs in heaven." It's interesting, no dogs. So, for those who have pets, that's a disappointment. So no dogs in heaven. And Yudhisthira Maharaj said, I'm not going. I'm not going. My dog, not because he was like overwhelmed with affection for the dog, but because the dog took shelter of him. So the statement in the Mahabharata is, if someone takes shelter of you, then it's greatly sinful to deny that person shelter. Very, very important principle. So anyway, so later on it was revealed that dog was Yamraj. And it was a test. They were testing him before he actually went back to home, back to heaven. Anyway, I'm not going to elaborate on that point. But the whole point is that one can be free from anarthas, but not absolutely free. Absolutely free means you're in prema, they're not coming back. So one is on the platform of bhava, they should be free from anarthas. And then, or even before that, when you're relatively free from anarthas, you get into raganuga bhakti, where you actually start to understand, but this is beyond. But it's mentioned by Rupa Goswami, so I can mention it. But it's beyond. Nobody should do this today, or tomorrow, or the next day, or the next 10,000 years. So, where you actually begin to understand who you are, or let's say who you're serving, that's better. Actually, who you are becomes manifest after you understand who you're serving. Unfortunately, nowadays people have this Ekadasha Bhava initiation, which is not bona fide, where they go to a Babaji in Radhakund, and Babaji says, Zadi Purush, your name is Adi Gopinini in the spiritual world, and you dress in polka dot clothes. I'm just making a joke. Polka dot sari, and you're a servant of come see me in the spiritual world, and your service is churning butter or something like that. And so then Adi goes home and he puts on lipstick or something. So this is not our process. Sometimes people take Bhaktivinoda Thakur's descriptions in the Jaiva Dharma out of context, where he describes a similar type of relationship between a guru and a disciple, but it's not. It's not meant for us, it's not taught by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Prabhupada said, deserve, then desire. So if you're serving Krishna by preaching, it will certainly be manifest to you. You don't have to try through artificial endeavor, thinking, I'm a gopi, I'm a gopi. You can't do that. I mean, you can do anything you want, but that's stupid. Or you go to Radhakund, there's so many gopis there, So, our process is work hard, work now, samadhi later. You understand? And serving the spiritual master is non-different. Prabhupada said that preaching is in the mood of the gopis. I mentioned this before. Why is it in the mood of the gopis? Because one's feeling intense separation. When you actually preach intensely, you feel great, intense. I mean, this is an experience even like neophyte devotees like ourselves could experience. When you're out there giving people Krishna consciousness, the emotions become like so intense in your heart towards the spiritual master and everything. I remember when I was doing traveling Sankirtan, and we would distribute books for like 12 hours a day, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night. I mean, the emotions were just so intense. It was unbelievable. I was just a little kid, 5 years old. No, not quite that young. 21 years old. I was just a little kid, and I was distributing books all day long, immersed in giving out Prabhupada's books. And then at the end of the day, we couldn't sleep at night. Me and the other brahmacharis couldn't sleep. We were just bouncing off the van walls, And we would listen to Prabhupada's classes, and we'd feel so much ecstasy just hearing the vibration coming from Prabhupada's mouth, which contains within it the saffron dust particles of the lotus feet of the Lord. So that's really how you could experience these bhavas by preaching. I mean, that's my experience. I can sit down all day long and just think of myself of whatever I am, and I don't experience any bhava except I just get sleepy. The bhava is sleep, But if I go out and I try to help people be Krishna conscious, wow. Even a neophyte devotee is described by Rupa Goswami that when one is immersed in Krishna Katha or having good association, one can get this like beginning attachment, even if one is not on a high platform of devotional service. So, on that happy note, we end on a happy note. We're in class. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.